The spaceship floated through the dark emptiness of space, a silver gleam against the backdrop of distant stars. Inside, a quiet hum echoed as the crew moved about, performing their duties. On board was a medic, a simple human named Alex. He wasn't a soldier, a diplomat, or a warrior. He was just a man who healed others. His role aboard the ship was straightforward: help the wounded and keep everyone in good health. He was good at his job, but nothing had prepared him for what he was about to face. Alex had seen many strange things in his time traveling through space, different planets, alien species, and technologies beyond his imagination, but nothing had ever quite matched the call he received that day. "Alex," the voice over the intercom crackled. "We have a priority case. Report to the medical bay immediately." The urgency in the voice made him stand up straight. He wasn't used to hearing that tone. The medical bay was always busy, but a priority case? That was something serious. He hurried down the narrow hallways of the ship, his boots clicking against the metal floors. When he entered the medical bay, he was met by a scene that caught him off guard. There, lying on the operating table, was an alien woman. No, not just any alien. She was the queen of a powerful race, a species Alex had only read about in the EOA records. She had deep violet skin, and her eyes, though closed, shimmered like stars. Her long, dark hair spread out like a blanket around her. Blood, green and thick, stained her clothes and the sheets beneath her. Alex was taken aback. He had seen injuries before, but nothing like this. She was the last person he ever thought he'd be treating. And yet here she was, injured, vulnerable, and in need of help. Is she alive?" Alex asked, his voice shaky. He wasn't sure if he was speaking to anyone in particular, but the nurse beside him nodded. "She's still alive, but just barely," the nurse replied. "We need you to clean her wound, Alex. The rest will be up to the higher-ups." Alex nodded and moved toward the table. As he approached the queen, he could feel an odd energy in the air, something heavy, like a presence that wasn't quite physical. It was like she was calling to him without saying a word. He focused on her wound, a deep gash across her side, bleeding heavily. His hands trembled as he reached for the medical tools. He had treated many people before, but this was different. The alien queen was no ordinary patient. She was a symbol of power, of a race whose history was written in blood and war. And yet here she was, needing his help. His hands worked quickly, but gently. He cleaned the wound, applying the right amount of pressure to stop the bleeding. The tools hummed softly as he used them, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something more was happening. It was as if the room itself held its breath, waiting for something to unfold. As he worked, Alex's eyes locked onto hers. She remained unconscious, but there was something about the way she lay there, her face serene, almost peaceful, that made him feel like he should be careful. She wasn't just an alien queen. She was something far more significant. And for reasons he couldn't explain, Alex felt a deep connection to her, something that pulled at him from within. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. Finally, Alex finished cleaning the wound and applied a healing salve. The bleeding had stopped and her breathing had become steadier. He stepped back, letting out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "She'll be okay," the nurse said, as though sensing his relief. For now, at least, Alex nodded but couldn't shake the unease that lingered in the back of his mind. The queen was still unconscious, but something had changed. He didn't know how, but he felt different. The moment their eyes met, there was a shift, something unspoken between them. As he left the medical bay, Alex's mind raced. What had just happened? Why did he feel this strange connection to her? He had healed thousands of people, but never had he felt this before. Back in his quarters, Alex sat, on his bed, staring out the window into the vastness of space. The stars twinkled in the distance, but his thoughts were consumed by the queen. He didn't know if he would ever see her again, but the moment he spent with her had left an imprint on his soul. He tried to push the thoughts aside, telling himself that it was just a normal patient encounter, nothing more. But deep down, he knew it wasn't that simple. The next few hours were a blur. Alex went through his usual routines, checking on crew members, ensuring that everyone was in good health. But all the while, his mind kept returning to the alien queen. He couldn't get her out of his head. It wasn't just her beauty or her power. It was something deeper, something he couldn't explain. Then, later that evening, he received another call. It wasn't from the intercom this time, but a direct message. Alex, the message read, "The queen has awoken. She's asking for you." His heart skipped a beat. Without thinking, he rushed back to the medical bay, his steps echoing in the quiet hallways. When he arrived, the queen was sitting up in the bed, her wound carefully bandaged. Her violet eyes met his as soon as he walked in. "Thank you," she said, her voice smooth and foreign, yet strangely calming. It wasn't a simple thank you like one might say after a routine treatment. No, her words carried weight, as though she had known something about him from the moment they met. "You're welcome," Alex replied, unsure of what to say. "Are you okay?" She smiled softly, her eyes locking onto his. "I am now," she said, "and for that I owe you my life." Alex blinked, unsure how to respond. "I just did my job," he said, his voice quieter than he intended. The queen tilted her head, studying him for a moment. "You are not just any medic," she said. "You are my chosen one." The words hit Alex like a shockwave. His heart raced and his mind spun. "Chosen one," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes," the queen said, her smile widening. "You are the one who will change everything. You are the one I have been waiting for." Alex felt the weight of her words, but he didn't know how to react. He was just a medic, a man who had spent his life healing others. He couldn't possibly be this chosen one she spoke of. It didn't make sense. But as he looked into her eyes, he felt something stir inside him. A strange pull, as though fate had woven their paths together. Whatever was happening, Alex knew that his life would never be the same again. Alex stood there, frozen in place, as the queen's words echoed in his mind. Chosen one. It was too much to process, too overwhelming. He had always been just a medic, a simple man who found comfort in helping others. But now, the queen, an alien ruler, powerful and ancient, was calling him something more. He took a step back, shaking his head in disbelief. I don't understand," he muttered, trying to wrap his mind around what she had just said. The queen's gaze softened. She wasn't angry or frustrated, instead she seemed calm, patient, as though she expected this reaction. "You don't have to understand right now," she said, her voice as smooth as silk. "But you will. You are the one I have been waiting for, Alex, the one who will help me lead my people." Alex looked at her, the weight of her words sinking in. How could he, someone who had never even thought about leadership, be the one to help her lead a civilization? It seemed impossible. "I'm just a medic," he said quietly, still trying to grasp the situation. I'm not a leader. I don't even know what you mean by chosen one." The queen's smile was gentle, almost understanding. "It's not about what you know, Alex. It's about what you are capable of. The universe has a way of guiding those who are meant for something greater. You've been chosen by fate to stand by me, not as my servant, but as my equal." Her words left Alex speechless. The thought that he could play any significant role in the future of her people seemed ridiculous. He had never considered himself anything special, just an ordinary man with a talent for healing. But as he looked into her eyes, he felt something stir deep within him. It was like a call, one that was buried deep in his soul, urging him to accept this strange destiny. It wasn't just a feeling of duty. It was something more personal, like a connection that reached beyond time and space. "You'll see soon enough," the queen continued, her voice warm. "We share something now, Alex. Something deeper than you know." Before he could ask her what she meant, the door to the medical bay opened, and a guard stepped in. The queen's expression changed, her face hardening slightly. It wasn't fear, but something close to it. She turned her head to the guard, her eyes narrowing. "What is it?" she asked, her tone sharp. The guard bowed slightly, his posture stiff. "Your Highness, The Council requests your presence. They are concerned about the state of the Alliance. They believe we are at war." The Queen sighed, clearly frustrated. "Very well. Tell them I will be there shortly." As the guard left, the Queen turned back to Alex. "The Council doesn't understand," she said softly, almost to herself. "They want to fight to destroy our enemies, but they don't see the bigger picture." Alex could sense the weight of her words. She wasn't just talking about war, she was talking about her people, her kingdom. She had spent her life as a ruler, but now, in the face of this impending conflict, she was lost. And for some reason, she was looking to him for answers. "I don't know what I can do," Alex said quietly. "I'm just here to heal people. I'm not a soldier." The Queen's eyes softened again, her gaze turning almost tender. "You're not just a healer, Alex. You have something they don't understand, something within you that they can't see. It's why I chose you." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. Her words made him feel as if he were standing on the edge of something unknown, something vast and powerful. But it was all too much to understand. How could he, a simple medic, be the answer to the problems of an entire alien civilization? Before he could respond, the Queen stood up, her posture graceful and commanding. "Come with me," she said, gesturing, for him to follow her. "I need you by my side." Unsure of what else to do, Alex followed her out of the medical bay and into the grand halls of the ship. The Queen moved with a quiet authority, her every step confident and sure. Alex couldn't help but notice the way the crew members and guards watched her, a mix of awe and fear in their eyes. She was no ordinary queen. She was a force to be reckoned with. As they made their way through the ship, Alex couldn't help but feel out of place. Everyone seemed so certain of their roles, everyone except him. He was just a medic. Yet, with each step he took, it felt like he was being drawn deeper into something far bigger than himself. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber at the heart of the ship. Inside, a group of high-ranking officials and advisors sat around a long metallic table. They all stood when the Queen entered, bowing their heads in respect. Alex stood quietly behind her, unsure of what to do. One of the advisors, a tall, thin alien with bright blue skin, spoke first. "Your Highness, we must act now. The rival factions are growing bolder and we cannot afford to wait any longer. We must declare war before they strike first." The Queen's expression was cold, but there was a flicker of something like sadness in her eyes. "War is not the answer," she said quietly, her voice calm but firm. "We need to find another way." Another advisor, a burly alien with thick green skin, scoffed. "We've tried diplomacy. They don't care about peace. We need to show strength, not weakness." Alex could feel the tension in the room. The Queen was in a difficult position. She had to balance the desires of her people with her own vision for the future, and somehow she was looking to him for support. He could feel her eyes on him, waiting for him to say something. I don't know what to say," Alex said softly, stepping forward. "I'm not here to advise on war. But I do know that violence only leads to more violence. Maybe there's a way to avoid this, something that doesn't involve bloodshed." The room fell silent. The Queen looked at him, her eyes searching his face. For the first time, Alex felt as though he were not just a medic, but a part of something much bigger. The Queen wasn't asking for his help as a healer. She was asking for his thoughts, his perspective. In that moment, he realized that his role here wasn't just to patch up wounds, it was to help guide her people toward a future that didn't have to be defined by war. "We must find another way," Alex said, his voice more confident now. "There must be a peaceful solution." The Queen's expression softened, and a small smile tugged at the corners of her lips. "You are right, Alex," she said quietly. "That is why you are my chosen one." Alex didn't know what the future held, but for the first time since meeting the Queen, he felt a sense of purpose. Whatever this connection between them was, he knew it was real, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, not as a medic, but as someone who was meant to stand by her side. Alex had always thought of himself as an ordinary man, a medic, nothing more. He wasn't a warrior or a leader. He had spent his life helping others, patching up wounds, and easing the pain of those around him. But ever since that moment with the alien queen, everything had changed. He couldn't stop thinking about her, the way she looked at him, the way her voice seemed to reach deep into his soul. It all felt too strange to understand. But there was something more, something he couldn't ignore. Every day it was becoming clearer. There was a connection between them that went beyond simple healing. It had been a week since the Queen had called him her chosen one, and Alex still didn't know what that really meant. His role on the ship had changed. Instead of only tending to the wounded, he was now often called into meetings with the Queen's advisors, discussing tactics, strategies, and alliances. He found himself sitting at the table, listening to the harsh debates about war and peace and offering advice he never thought he'd give. At first, he had been hesitant. He was a medic, not a diplomat. He didn't know how to navigate the complex politics of alien factions. But somehow the Queen trusted him. And each time he spoke, his words felt more certain, more powerful. It was as if something inside him was waking up, something that had always been there but had never been needed until now. One evening, after a long meeting, the Queen asked Alex to stay behind. Her advisors had already left, leaving them alone in the large, quiet chamber. The air was thick with silence, and Alex could feel the weight of the moment. "Alex," the Queen said softly, "I need to show you something. Something that may help. You understand why you are here?" He looked at her, curiosity stirring within him. "What do you mean?" The Queen stood up, her violet eyes locking onto his. "Follow me." She led him through the ship's corridors, past rooms filled with technology and alien artifacts. The walls were lined with glowing symbols, strange writings Alex had never seen before. He had spent months aboard the ship, but this part was unfamiliar to him. They arrived at a large door, one that Alex had never noticed before. With a simple gesture, the Queen opened the door, revealing a hidden chamber inside. The room was circular, its walls covered in intricate patterns that pulsed with a faint light. In the center of the room was a stone pedestal, on which rested a glowing crystal. The crystal seemed to hum with energy, casting a soft, mesmerizing glow across the room. "What is this?" Alex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The Queen turned to face him, her expression serious. "This is the Heartstone. It is the source of my people's power. It is a part of us, our history, our strength. And now, it is a part of you." Alex stepped closer, the crystal's glow pulling him in. He could feel its warmth, almost as if it were alive. A strange sensation washed over him, like the air around him was charged with energy. "What do you mean, it's part of me?" he asked, confused. "I'm just a medic. I have no power." The Queen smiled, but there was no humor in it. "You do have power, Alex. It is within you, just as it is within the Heartstone. You are not just a healer. You are connected to the very essence of my people, the energy that flows through us all." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. He looked at the Queen, searching her face for answers. "I don't understand. How is that possible? I'm human. I have no connection to your people, your power." The Queen placed her hand on the crystal, and Alex could feel the energy pulsing through her, like a vibration in the air. It was always meant to be this way. When the Heartstone was first created, it was designed to connect with a chosen individual, someone who could help guide our people into the future. That person was always meant to be you. Alex took a step back, his heart racing. "But I'm not like you. I'm just a man." "You are more than that," the Queen said, her voice soft but firm. "You are the one who will help me lead my people. You have the potential to unlock the power within yourself, but you must choose to accept it." Alex stood there, feeling the weight of her words. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this. He had never asked for power, never wanted to be a leader. He was content with his life as it was, simple, straightforward, and without complication. But the Queen was right. There was something inside him, something he couldn't explain. A part of him knew that he had always been meant for something greater. He just never realized it until now. "How do I accept it?" Alex asked, his voice trembling slightly. The Queen smiled, her eyes glowing with an intensity he had never seen before. "You have to embrace it, Alex. You have to believe in yourself, in the power that lies within you. The Heartstone will guide you, but it will only reveal its true potential when you are ready." Alex reached out, his hand hovering just above the crystal. He could feel its warmth, its energy, pulling him in. For a moment he hesitated, but then something inside him shifted. He knew he couldn't turn back now. This was his destiny, whether he was ready for it or not. He placed his hand on the Heartstone, and instantly a surge of energy coursed through his body. It was overwhelming, like a flood of light and power rushing through him. His heart raced and his vision blurred as the energy filled him, transforming him in ways he couldn't yet understand. For a moment he thought he might collapse, but the Queen's steady presence kept him grounded. She stood beside him, her hand resting on his shoulder as the energy flowed into him. The world around him seemed to fade, and all that remained was the connection between him and the Heartstone, between him and the Queen. When the surge of energy finally subsided, Alex took a deep breath, his body tingling with newfound power. He opened his eyes, and for the first time he saw the world differently. He felt the energy in the air, the pulse of life that connected everything around him. He could sense the Queen's emotions, her thoughts, as if they were his own. "You are ready now," the Queen said, her voice filled with pride. "You have unlocked the power within you. Now you must use it to help guide my people." Alex didn't know what to say. He had never asked for any of this, but deep down, he knew that his life would never be the same. He had stepped into a new world, one where his role as a simple medic had ended, and something far greater had begun. Alex's mind was still reeling from the strange, overwhelming energy that had coursed through him. It had felt like a burst of light, filling every corner of his being with power he couldn't begin to understand. The Heartstone had done something, to him, something that had changed the very core of who he was. But now that the energy had settled, the question remained: what was he supposed to do with this newfound power? He walked through the corridors of the ship, the familiar hum of the engines now sounding different to him, almost as if he could hear it with a clarity he hadn't experienced before. Every step he took felt purposeful, as though the floor beneath his feet was guiding him towards something important. The Queen had said he was ready to help lead her people, ready to embrace a destiny he had never asked for. But what did that mean? How could he, a simple medic, possibly lead an entire civilization? He had spent his life treating wounds, not making decisions that could affect millions. But as he walked, he couldn't ignore the way the ship's crew looked at him now. There was something in their eyes, respect, maybe fear. They knew what he had done. They knew what he had become. He had healed their Queen, and now he was something more. He arrived at the council room where the Queen had called for another meeting. The door slid open, and Alex stepped inside, taking his usual place behind the Queen. Her presence was commanding, but there was a weight in the air, a tension that Alex could feel as soon as he entered. The council was in full swing. Several high-ranking officials were seated around the large table, each one speaking in rapid, anxious tones. The discussion was intense, and Alex quickly realized that it was about the rival factions. They had been growing stronger, their attacks becoming more frequent, and the council was divided on what action to take. "War is inevitable," one of the advisors said, slamming his fist on the table. "We cannot sit idly by while they build their armies. We must strike first." "We cannot afford a war," another advisor countered, her voice shaking. "It will destroy everything we've worked for. We need a solution, not violence." The debate raged on with no clear answer in sight. The Queen sat silently, her eyes closed as if she were deep in thought. Alex could see the strain in her posture, the burden of leadership weighing heavily on her shoulders. She had been forced into this position, leading her people through difficult times, and now, with the rival factions closing in, she was facing a choice that could determine the fate of her entire species. Finally, the queen raised her hand, silencing the room. The council members turned to her, awaiting her decision. "I have called you all here today because we stand at a crossroads," she said, her voice calm but firm. "We cannot afford to make decisions out of fear or anger. We must find another way." Alex stepped forward, feeling the weight of the queen's words. His heart raced, but as he looked around the room, he realized that the eyes of the council were on him. They were waiting for him to speak. He was no longer just a medic, no longer just someone who healed wounds. He was a part of this, whether he was ready or not. "What if we don't have to fight?" Alex said, his voice steady but unsure. "What if there's another way? Maybe there's a way to reach a peace agreement, something that doesn't involve bloodshed." The room fell silent. The council members exchanged looks, some of them skeptical, others curious. The queen turned her gaze toward Alex, her eyes searching his face. "I know this sounds idealistic," Alex continued, feeling more confident now that he had spoken. "But war only leads to more war. It never ends. What if we could find a way to avoid it? A way to show our strength without destroying everything we hold dear?" The queen studied him for a long moment and then nodded slowly. "You are right," she said quietly. "We cannot afford to let fear drive us to war. But we cannot ignore the threat either. We must be strong, but we must also be wise." The council members were still silent, but there was a shift in the room. Alex could feel it. The energy had changed. They were listening to him, really listening. And for the first time, he felt as though he was truly a part of this, part of something much bigger than himself. The queen stood up, her posture regal, her expression resolute. "I will send a delegation to negotiate with the rival factions," she declared. "But we will not be weak. We will show them that we are ready to defend ourselves, but we will seek peace first." The council nodded and the tension in the room eased, though the weight of their decision still hung heavy in the air. Alex felt the eyes of everyone on him as he stepped back, his heart still racing. He had spoken up, but he didn't know if it would be enough to change the outcome. Later that night, as he sat alone in his quarters, Alex reflected on what had happened. He had taken a step forward, and for the first time, he had felt the weight of his new role as the chosen one. It wasn't just about healing anymore. It wasn't just about following orders. He had a voice, and now he had to learn how to use it. The queen's words echoed in his mind. "You are not just a healer, Alex. You are the one who will help me lead my people." But what did that mean? He had no experience leading anyone, let alone an entire alien civilization. How was he supposed to guide them toward peace and unity when he barely understood his own role in all of this? As he lay down to sleep, Alex closed his eyes and tried to quiet his racing thoughts. He didn't have all the answers, but one thing was certain. His life had changed forever. There was no turning back now. He had been chosen for something bigger than himself, and the trials had only just begun. The days after the council meeting felt heavier than Alex could have ever imagined. His thoughts were consumed with the queen, her people, and the delicate situation they faced. He was still adjusting to the strange powers that had awakened within him. The energy that flowed through him, a power connected to the Heartstone, had opened up something inside him that he didn't fully understand. But every time he tried to ignore it, the power pulsed within him, calling him to something greater. His newfound abilities weren't just physical, they were mental too. He could sense emotions more clearly, hear whispers of thoughts from those around him. Sometimes it felt overwhelming, but at other times, it felt like a gift, a way to truly understand what others needed. But there was something more. There was a dark undertone to the palace that Alex couldn't ignore. Whispers of betrayal floated through the halls, rumors that seemed to follow him wherever he went. He had tried to stay focused, to help the queen and guide her people toward peace. But the further he went, the more he realized that not everyone in the council wanted peace. One evening, Alex found himself in the queen's chambers, speaking with her about the upcoming negotiations with the rival factions. She had asked for his advice, but the conversation felt different today. There was a tension in the air that Alex couldn't shake. Alex, the Queen said, her voice unusually quiet. There's something I need to tell you. Alex looked up from the map he was studying, sensing the weight of her words before they were spoken. What is it? The Queen hesitated, her gaze flickering to the door as though making sure they were alone. I've learned something about the Council. Alex's heart skipped a beat. The Queen had always been open with him, but this was different. She seemed troubled, something that was rare for her. What's going on? Alex asked, standing up and moving closer. What did you learn? The Council. They've been planning something behind my back, she said, her voice filled with frustration. I've trusted them for so long, but now I fear they've been plotting to take control. They want war. They believe that peace is a weakness. Alex felt a chill run down his spine. He had suspected that some members of the Council weren't entirely on the Queen's side, but he hadn't expected betrayal to come this close to the heart of the kingdom. Who's behind this? Alex asked, his voice low, his thoughts racing. The Queen sighed and looked away, her face drawn with worry. I don't know for certain, but I suspect one of the high-ranking advisors is leading it. I need to know who I can trust. Alex's heart pounded. This wasn't just a political issue anymore. It was personal. The Queen had always been his ally and he had always been loyal to her, but now there was a deeper question. Who else could be trusted? I can help, Alex said, determined. I'll find out who's behind this. I'll make sure we know who we're dealing with. The Queen looked at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. I knew I could count on you, Alex, but be careful. This betrayal is more dangerous than you can imagine. As the days passed, Alex began to gather information, speaking with trusted members of the crew, listening for signs of deception. He knew the stakes were high. The rival factions were already threatening war, and if the Council was divided, it could mean disaster for everyone. One evening, Alex overheard a conversation in a quiet corridor, hidden from view. Two Council members, speaking in hushed tones, were discussing the Queen's leadership. It's time to act, one of them said, his voice sharp. She's weak. If we don't strike now, we'll lose everything. The humans are already too close to her. We need to take control. Alex's stomach dropped. He recognized the voice. It was one of the advisors who had been closest to the Queen, the man who had always pretended to support her. But now, it was clear, he was part of the plot. Alex's mind raced. He had to act quickly. The betrayal was deeper than he had thought. The advisor wasn't just planning a coup. He was preparing to destroy everything the Queen had worked for, everything Alex had worked for. The Queen's people were in danger, and it was up to him to stop it. He didn't waste any time. He returned to the Queen's chambers that night, determined to tell her everything he had learned. When he arrived, he found her standing by the window, looking out at the stars. The soft light of the distant galaxies cast a peaceful glow over her, but there was tension in her shoulders, a worry that Alex could feel even from across the room. Queen, Alex said, his voice urgent. I've learned something. There's a plot against you. Some of the Council members are planning to take control. They want war. They don't care about peace. The Queen turned toward him, her expression unreadable. I know, she said softly. I've suspected it for some time, but now it's clear. They are already moving against me. Alex's heart sank. He had hoped to bring her news of a solution, but instead he was confirming her worst fears. What do we do now? He asked, his voice steady despite the fear building inside him. We fight back, the Queen said, her voice sharp, her eyes flashing with determination. We cannot let them tear us apart. I will not let my people fall into the hands of traitors. But how? Alex asked. If they control the Council, they control the kingdom. How can we stop them? The Queen's eyes softened for a moment and she stepped closer to Alex. You are more than just a healer, Alex, she said quietly. You are the one who can help me lead. Together, we will take back control. Alex nodded, feeling a surge of responsibility. He had never imagined himself as a leader, but now, With the Queen at his side, he felt ready to face whatever came next. The road ahead would be difficult and the stakes were higher than ever. But there was no turning back. They had to stop the traitors. They had to protect the future of her people, their people. And Alex knew that the trials he faced were only beginning. The air in the Queen's chamber was thick with tension. Alex stood beside her, feeling the weight of their decisions pressing down on him. The council was no longer just a place of debate. It had become a battleground. The Queen's trust in the council had been shattered, and now it was up to them to reclaim control before the rival factions could take advantage of the division. "I've called the council together," the Queen said, her voice calm, but laced with determination. "Tomorrow, we confront them. We will expose the traitors and we will remind them that peace is not a weakness." Alex nodded, though he couldn't shake the unease in his chest. The betrayal was not only political, it was personal. The advisor who had plotted against the Queen had been close to her for years. He had been someone Alex trusted, someone who had pretended to be loyal just like the others. Now they were all facing the consequences of his actions. "You're ready, Alex," the Queen said, her voice steady. "I know it's a heavy burden, but you've proven yourself. You've shown that. You are more than just a healer. You are the one who will help lead us through this." Alex looked at her, his heart racing. The power he had unlocked with the Heartstone pulsed within him, but now it felt like more of a responsibility than ever. He wasn't just standing by the Queen anymore. He was stepping forward as her equal, someone who could make decisions that would shape the future of their people. The next day, the council gathered in the Grand Hall. The tension in the air was palpable as the Queen entered the room, flanked by Alex and her most loyal advisors. The council members were seated at the long table, their eyes flickering between the Queen and Alex. There was a mixture of fear, respect, and uncertainty in their gazes. The time for diplomacy was over. Now, it was time for action. "Thank you for joining us," the Queen began, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Today we address the future of our kingdom, and today we decide whether we will be a united people or a divided one." The council shifted uneasily in their seats, but no one spoke. Alex stood beside the Queen, his heart pounding in his chest. He had never been in a situation like this before. His role had always been to heal, not to lead. But today he wasn't just a medic. He was part of something much bigger, and the responsibility weighed heavily on him. "We have learned of a betrayal," the Queen continued, her eyes scanning the room. "Some of you have plotted against me, against the future of our people. You believed that war would give you power, but you are wrong. War will only destroy us, all." A murmur rippled through the room, but the Queen raised her hand, silencing the council. "The traitors among us will be dealt with," she said, her voice cold and commanding. "I have trusted many of you, and now you have shown your true intentions. You will answer for your actions." Alex felt the power of the Queen's words settle in the room. There was no going back now. The decision had been made. The council members who had betrayed her would face the consequences, and there was no room for hesitation. At that moment, one of the advisors stood up, a tall alien with pale skin and sharp features. He was the one Alex had overheard, the one who had called for the destruction of the Queen. His eyes met Alex's, and for a brief moment Alex saw the fear in them. "You can't do this," the advisor said, his voice shaking. "You don't understand. We had to act. The rival factions are too strong. They will destroy us if we don't strike first." The Queen stepped forward, her gaze unwavering. "You chose betrayal over unity," she said, her voice cold. "You chose war over peace. There is no place for you in this future." Alex felt a pang of sympathy for the advisor, but he knew there was no turning back. The man's choices had led them to this moment. The Queen was right. There could be no peace with traitors in their midst. "Take him away," the Queen ordered, and 2 guards stepped forward, guiding the advisor out of the room. The rest of the council remained silent, their faces filled with uncertainty. The Queen had made her decision, and they had to accept it. For a moment the room was still, and Alex could feel the weight of the moment settle over him. "We will rebuild," the Queen said, her voice softening. "We will find a way to bring peace to our people. But we will not compromise. We will stand strong together." The council members exchanged wary glances, but there was a shift in the air. They were no longer questioning the Queen's authority. They were accepting it. They were accepting the future she was offering them. As the meeting came to a close, Alex found himself standing alone in the grand hall, watching as the council members slowly filed out. The Queen had done what needed to be done, and she had done it with strength. Alex admired her for that. She had shown him what it meant to lead, not through fear or power, but through conviction. The future of their people was still uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would face it together. Alex wasn't just a medic anymore. He was part of something bigger. And as he looked at the Queen standing tall beside him, he knew that his role in this world was far from over. The trials weren't over yet, but Alex had made his choice. He had chosen to stand by the Queen, to fight for peace, and to help guide her people toward a brighter future. The path ahead would be difficult, but together they could face anything. And with that thought, Alex felt a sense of purpose settle within him. He wasn't just healing wounds anymore, he was healing a kingdom, and that was a responsibility he was ready to carry.